So I am Briar Anderson. I am STLI Senior Instructional Designer.
And I'm Kat Wargo. I'm the Director of Academic Innovation and Pedagogical Partnerships. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you all here. So today we're going to talk about how you can develop assignments or structure your assignments that strongly promote and influence student learning. And we're making this connection to assignments that use AI. And this shift is being very intentional and thinking about during your assignment development, what you're asking students to do and how it might lead to their success. And really, we're talking about small changes that make large outcomes. So in true tilt fashion, I'm going to begin today's session by talking about the purpose for you as our learners. So, the purpose of today's session is to recognize how transparently designed assignments with AI can improve student success and creating equitable learning practices, and to consider how you use transparent assignment design in your own classroom and context. And then, if you stay past our 25-minute talk, we are going to give some space to workshop an actual assignment. So we'll be here for a full hour today, but that second part, the workshop, is optional. And this is how Tilt structures their framework. So we're not going to do a deep dive into these very evidence-based practices today because we only have 25 minutes. But if you are super interested in this topic of transparent assignment design, the work comes from Dr. Ann Winkelmes, who was with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Brandeis, their teaching centers, and the Transparency in Learning and Teaching, or TILT, higher ed project. And I have links to both her research and the TILT website at the end of this presentation that we will send out to everybody. What is transparent assignment design, or what is transparency in teaching and learning? Transparent teaching and learning methods explicitly focus on and communicate how and why students are learning course content in particular ways. So really, the goal of transparent assignment design is to think about the purpose of the assignment, the tasks students are completing, and then the success criteria. And those are the three big components of transparent assignment design. And you're going to see these kind of again and again and again. And the goal is to articulate all of those things to students. And by giving students the purpose, why they're doing what they're doing, by outlining the tasks very explicitly, and by providing success criteria, you are setting students up for success. So we know that equity of access does not mean equity of experience. And so this is why we're talking about making some intentional shifts in the way that you create your assignments. Really briefly, the research shows that just because students have entered a college or university doesn't mean that they all have the same experience. So the goal of transparency is to make your course, your assignments more accessible by removing these unwritten rules or this hidden discourse of what it means to be a university student or a student within your discipline. And this very explicit instruction benefits first generation college students, low income students, underrepresented students specifically, but it also benefits everybody else. So those groups moved really far in the research that Dr. Ann Winkelmes did on this structure of assignment design. Those groups specifically moved the needle and did better on assignments and had stronger outcomes, but all students benefited from this work because they weren't trying to kind of figure out what they were supposed to do. So, what happens? Why should you care about transparent assignment design? Again, the research shows that this works at decreasing equity gaps in students, and that changing just two assignments. I think that's why I love this strategy so much and her research so much, is this isn't like a whole complete course overhaul or a course redesign. This is thinking about two assignments in your class that you do with your students, and revising the way you structured them significantly improves student learning by boosting their academic confidence, their sense of belonging, both of which are predictors of student success both in your course and at the university. So retention rates were improved, and then higher, performance in your courses. Because if students know what they're being asked to do, they feel confident about it and they feel connected to the university. The added benefit was this metacognitive awareness of the skills that they were developing, and they could articulate that by doing a certain assignment, and in this case, doing certain assignments with AI, they had this like new skill set that they could then leverage towards their future professions or careers. So again, the research shows that the needles kind of on these markers was moved for all students, but particularly those underrepresented students, drastically improved student success. And so I think the other piece to this transparent assignment design puzzle is that it's really beneficial to you as an instructor. So assignments that are designed transparently mean that you have the research again has shown that more on-time assignments get turned in. So you're not like harassing students, over a midterm project like the week before it's due. They classes had higher rates of meaningful discussion. There was increased student motivation, less questions. So your inbox is not going to be flooded with questions about how to do something, and then less grade disputes. So beneficial to students and instructors. Okay, so what does this look like in practice? So in practice, it looks like outlining three things when you design your assignments. And again, today, talking about outlining these three things related to assignments that use AI. So first, you're going to outline the purpose. And this is the skills that students are practicing and the knowledge that they're gaining by completing an assignment. So describing why students are doing this assignment. Explain how the knowledge or skill set is relevant or beneficial to students' futures, whether that's their lives, their major, their career, the curriculum. So don't discount that your course might be a prerequisite to something larger, or this assignment might be a prerequisite or a precursor to something further in your assignment. And the course more broadly outside of William and Mary. So connecting to your learning goals of your course, but also the longer relevance of the class. So why are they doing what they're doing? Give them the purpose. And then outline the task for them. And this is pretty straightforward. This is probably something you do with all of your assignments, but it can be hard to write, especially if you're in a very niche discipline. Sometimes we have blind spots. We talk in kind of educationalese or discipline specific language that students don't understand. So, one tip is to have somebody outside your discipline look at how you've outlined your task for students and tell you if they see any of those expert blind spots where you think you're being really clear, but because you're so immersed in the discipline, students might not understand. So think about student-friendly language when writing the task. You might use steps to follow. You might give steps to avoid if you know that there's pitfalls, mistakes that students make. So the goal here is to be really clear. Sometimes instructors push back on this idea of being really explicit with the task because they feel like it can hinder creativity. But if the purpose of the assignment is for students to be really creative and have to kind of grapple with a muddy concept, just tell them that. The whole purpose here is to be explicit and transparent in why students are doing what they're doing. So if the goal is to be confused, by telling them the goal is to be confused and to make them struggle, you're combating that doubt and supporting belonging. And the last thing is, again, something most instructors do with their assignments, and this is providing success criteria. So show students what a successful submission looks like. Maybe you have annotated examples of assignments. If this is the first time doing an assignment, maybe you create an example, or you provide real world examples, a checklist, a rubric. This allows students to self-evaluate, and it also allows students to feel confident and that they can meet the expectations of the assignment. And this is particularly, again, important because many students lack that discipline-specific knowledge, especially early in their careers here at William and Mary. So exemplars make your expectations clear. Yeah, right, Kay Wargo.
Thanks, Briar. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can reframe this just a little bit in thinking about the components of transparent assignment design to really foster intrinsic motivation. And we know that when we try to foster intrinsic motivation in our students through our assignments and our assessments, that it helps students to feel as though the work that they're doing matters. It really helps them to feel invested in the work, and it helps them to feel as though they can succeed with the work. And oftentimes it has positive influence on their self-efficacy within the discipline. So these are all really, really good things. So if we think about purpose, we want to help students to feel as though they care about the assignment. When we think about task, we want them to feel as though they can do the assignment, and not just that they can do the assignment, but they can perform well on the assignment. And then for criteria, we want students to feel as though the work that they do matters, and that in turn makes them feel as though they matter. So what does this look like in practice? Briar, next slide, please.
Sorry, I lost my mouse.
Okay, so if we're thinking about answering that question of, how we make students feel as though they care about the assignment, we really want to answer that question of why. What skills and knowledge will students gain? How will they be able to use it? Is it relevant to them, to their careers, to their discipline, and so forth? So really mapping that out well for students and thinking specifically related to AI, how does that weave into the purpose of the assignment as well? And for task, we want to make students feel as though they can achieve well on the assignment. And so answering these discrete questions of what, how, when, where, and with whom is really helpful to break apart all of the essential pieces of an assignment so that students feel like they can manage that assignment more easily. So, we want to provide clarity regarding what students need to do, what needs to be submitted. Is there a recommended process? If we're using AI, how in that process can they utilize AI? Where in that process are they not allowed to use AI, and so forth? For that question of with whom are they allowed to use AI, and how are they allowed to collaborate with other individuals? Are they allowed to collaborate with individuals and use AI? These are all questions that we want to make sure that we're answering really clearly and in a targeted way so that students know where the parameters are. And in terms of that idea of I matter, providing a checklist can be really helpful for students, once again, so that they know that they're on track and so that they understand that they've completed all of the different essential pieces of the assignment in order to perform well. And providing a rubric or an example, especially as we're entering this realm of AI, is so essential so that students can see really clearly how AI is woven into the process and what it looks like as part of, the end result. Next slide, please. So the first thing that we want to do when we're defining purpose is we always want to start with our learning objectives. That's not AI specific, that's just good teaching. But really think about with those learning objectives, how that relates specifically to the ways that we're utilizing AI, right? Is AI actually a part of the learning objective? Is being able to use it in a specific way part of the learning objective? And if so, how will you teach students how to do that? And then how do you intend for students to utilize AI throughout that assignment process? Because there are different ways that we can use AI. We know this. We can use it as a thought partner to generate ideas, to bounce ideas back and forth, and so forth. We can use it as a tutor where it's providing us necessary information for studying or what have you. We could use it as a feedback mechanism, pump in a paragraph that we want feedback from, and then have it generate some of that feedback and then revise our writing. So what is our intent through that assignment for students to be using AI? It's really clear to map that out. And then also, do you want students throughout the process to gain an awareness of or an understanding of the limitations of AI? Do you want it to act as a support for their learning? Do you want it to be an exemplar for how it can be used in the discipline? These questions will really help to guide you in mapping out for students the purpose of the assignment and the purpose of how AI is being integrated into the assignment, which is essential to answer. Next slide, please, Briar. And then woven throughout all of this is that question of the ethical implications of AI usage. And so really be thinking about how you want to approach that with students, whether it's in actually outlining in the purpose of the assignment, why you've decided to use AI and in this way, and how you're attending to maybe some of those ethical implications, or if you have students kind of navigating those ethical implications as part of the assignment, outline for them as well what kinds of questions they should be thinking about as they're kind of interacting with AI in relation to some of those ethical issues. Next slide, please. And so for defining the tasks, really thinking about what you want learners to do, where it's important for learners to do the thinking, and where you're okay with AI doing some of that idea generation or content generation. And I almost see this as like two columns outlined very clearly for students, like you're going to do this part, this part, this part, and this part, and here's where you can utilize AI to help you with these very discrete kinds of things. And like, here's the back and forth that I expect to see in your work throughout this process. And so it's going to be really helpful if you can, with that, include resources for students. So for instance, we want students, just as we are, to be as very transparent about their AI usage as possible so that we can help to guide those processes and also so we can attend to academic integrity. And so providing them resources like how to cite AI is going to be really beneficial so that they can start to weave those things into their use cases. And then at the moment, we're institutionally navigating kind of what kinds of tools we might adopt institutionally. And so because we don't have a lot of generative AI tools that have been vetted and approved at the institutional level, that means that, as students navigate a lot of these very real concerns of privacy, information accuracy, and ethical implications, and so forth, that we need to provide them choice and we need to provide them options to not use those tools if they haven't been institutionally vetted. So just kind of thinking about throughout your mapping of an assignment, how could a student do this without using that specific tool if it has not been vetted institutionally is going to be really important. And then just being really clear about what our guidelines for academic integrity are going to be. And so a lot of us have a syllabus statement at the beginning of the course that outlines kind of what we are, willing to accept throughout the course for AI usage. But it's going to be really helpful if you're navigating using AI at all in your course, that you provide some guidance assignment by assignment, because some assignments you'll think we really shouldn't be using AI, and we want to be very clear about that. Whereas other assignments, there's, maybe more flexibility. Next slide, please, Briar. So we've included this resource here for you, which has some symbols that might be useful to start using throughout the course so that students can see that consistency of like, oh, these assignments, I shouldn't be using AI. These assignments, I can use AI in a limited way, and then my instructor provides me those parameters. And then these assignments is like a free-for-all. I can do whatever I want as long as I show how I've used AI and how it supports my learning and, how it supports the activity that we've done in class, right? Next slide, please. And then in terms of defining criteria, we already have, a lot of really great frameworks for how we can provide models, how we can provide rubrics to students. These all work in the AI sphere. We don't want to forget about that. But you might want to think about, in addition to providing a model or a sample of the final product or a rubric, you could share examples of effective AI prompts that would help students with the assignment, because we know prompt engineering is so essential. You could provide them with different kinds of reflection tasks that would help to guide them through that process of their usage so that they could really start to hone their skills. And you could provide them with maybe examples of different ways to cite AI. For instance, if you're using AI in your assignment creation, maybe you cite that and then you show that so that students have that as a model. Next slide. Okay, so we just have an example assignment here that I've kind of mapped out with purpose, task, and criteria. So in terms of purpose, you might have an assignment that starts as such. How do we differentiate between fact and fiction when using generative AI? The purpose of this assignment is to enhance your critical thinking and research skills by engaging with AI-generated content, a great tool when used intentionally, but a dangerous tool when used without criticality. Okay, so there's a lot there that students can already start to kind of like think about as they're reflecting on why I might care about this topic. And then, what are they going to learn? So what are those discrete learning objectives? They're going to learn to identify and verify factual claims, assess the reliability of sources, develop skills in annotation and critical analysis, right? And then by completing this assignment, they're going to gain a deeper understanding of the philosophical topic. Maybe this is a philosophy course, and they're going to improve their ability to discern credible information. So outlining that very explicitly is going to be really helpful for students to start to feel a little bit more connected and a little bit more engaged with the actual assignment. Next slide. And I won't read this out for you, but having all of those pieces, the what, the how, the when, the where, and the resources, and the with whom is going to be so essential to parse out where AI is acceptable, where it's not acceptable. And in this instance, it's actually not students using AI, but it's me as the instructor providing them with AI-generated content and having them actually critically interact with it. Next slide. And then in terms of the criteria, just making sure that we have that checklist there, right? Have students identified all the factual claims within their annotated piece? Are all the references verified? Are their annotations clear and supported by evidence? So going back to those pieces of the task and bringing that into kind of that I matter piece so that students understand, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. Okay, great. I have all the pieces I need, and now I can turn it in, right?
And this is the last slide where there is a link to a template to create transparent assignment design, transparently designed assignments, words. A page from Ohio State that's really powerful. The TILT examples, there are lots of examples of different disciplines of the teaching and learning. In higher ed project, the transparently designed assignments examples, and then the research, and then a short course from us, Studio for Teaching and Learning, that also walks instructors through designing writing assignments.